Hello everyone, this is RaySpace and welcome back to more testing of the Firefly Reentry mod in Kerbal Space Program 1.12 with Realism Overhaul. I am here to test it with the Space Shuttle by Giulio Dondi, the most advanced version of the Space Shuttle available for Realism Overhaul and Real Solar System. And I am going to just let the launch script handle the launch as it normally does, and then we'll proceed from there. So the Giulio Dondi Shuttle has associated with it a KOS script for launch and reentry, and so the launch script is like this and mimics the real launch sequence for the real space shuttle. And since it's going to be handling that, we might as well go with this view here. There are possibilities as far as getting the effects to appear a little bit earlier, and I'll talk about those in the video. That was one of my gripes when testing the Firefly mod with my Lynx spacecraft. But frankly, the Lynx spacecraft is a little bit odd. Another thing odd is the particular group of mods, visual mods that I have in these installs, because I do have a lot of visual mods already, so it's not like stock, right? In this particular install, which is different from the one that I used in the previous video, I have RSS Reborn completely, so it's got the terrain modifications as well as the clouds. So we have the volumetric clouds in the background, but I also have KS3P, which is a post-processing mod that can interfere with things. But RSS Reborn can also interfere with things because it's modifying the atmospheric scatterer, which modifies how the atmosphere looks. So that's a possibility too. So when you see a lot of images of how Firefly is working in stock, it can be very different from how it looks here. It certainly was working in the previous video, it just wasn't working as I thought it was for other people, basically. Now, I do have aerodynamic effects on minimal now, and it's always been on minimal for me. That's normally the setting. And in fact, in the previous video, even though I turned it up, because I turned it up in flight, it went back to being minimal for the later tests. So just to be clear, it went back to minimal. So that was an effect, and people have told me that it should be on minimal. Booster separation isn't going to be great. I've been trying to tweak the Stepatrons, but yeah, it's still going a little bit weird. I'll have to take the lower separation motors off, I think. At least it doesn't bump into the shuttle. Now this space shuttle has some re-entry effects of its own. The body has a glow to it. It's sort of like a heat shield glow equivalent. And so we will see that operating, and that'll give you an idea when Giulio Dondi thought that the shuttle would have plasma on it. And we'll compare that to when Firefly actually applies the plasma on it. But that might be a complicating factor too, we'll see. But let's face it, I really only fly complicated spacecraft, so I don't fly the stock spacecraft or stock parts. So these are the things I have to work with, and if it doesn't look quite right with these spacecraft, then I have to figure out what to do about that. I might try to dump KS3P, the post-processing mod, to see if that works any differently compared to how Firefly is going to work with it in there, to see if that's a problem. Though I would like my post-processing mod to still be in here. It produces subtle effects that I like. That's why it's here. Okay, a serious flip of a camera. And it should hand off to me soon. And I might as well take the opportunity to go over how to use the reentry portion of the Giulio Dondi package. First, of course, we have to actually get to orbit. The launch script does not leave you in orbit. You have to do the OMS burn. I always get questions about how to use this space shuttle with its KOS scripts, so we do have a payload that we will also bring back. It's a 12-ton payload, which is about the shuttle's maximum capacity as far as bringing stuff back. But in order to bring stuff back like that, we have to make sure that we dump the OMS fuel. We generally should make sure that we dump the OMS fuel to the amount that is safe to come back with. Otherwise, the shuttle will end up being tail heavy. So this is a sort of lopsided orbit that we'll try from. It'll be more interesting for the reentry script if I try from a more interesting orbit. Anyway, the OMS propellant is the MH helium in Mon 3, and prior to starting the reentry burn, we're going to cut that down to halfway. So we only want half tanks, and then we can proceed with the reentry. Okay, that right there should be okay. The reentry script should be able to handle a return after one orbit. The shuttle cross range allows for that. And first, we make a maneuver. Second, we run. And you have to put the scripts into your ships/script folder. Deorbit, sorry. Okay. So then you select the target, KSC. Assuming you've measured out the runway properly and everything, that will be important for the actual landing. So first, we've got this maneuver here. We should make sure that the maneuver is of the right magnitude, and basically that means minus 80 meters per second. So 80 meter per second retroburn is a good start. And the first arrow here is the retroburn point, and the second arrow is when it's going to hit the atmosphere according to the deorbit planner. And when it's talking about the atmosphere, it's probably talking about 122 kilometers. Actually, it says here, entry interface, that's the EI, is 121,479 meters. So that's what it thinks is the atmosphere. And we need this bottom number here, reference range at entry interface. That's the goal. We need the bottom number here to match that goal. So right now it's too close. The entry interface is, well, it's actually past the KSC. So we need it to be an earlier retroburn. And then, so that's 3,000 kilometers. And now this script might have changed since I last updated it, just keep that in mind. But okay, now the range is correct, but our steepness is not correct. Right now we're going down a 1.2 degree angle, and we want a 1.12 degree angle. So that means that if we're going in too much, then we should make this less of a retroburn. But that'll end up changing this as well, but we'll adjust further. Now it's okay. And now this is just a little bit too close. Wait till it updates, and it's okay with these numbers. And so you can see the entry interface is here, and we're trying to land there. That seems about right. And what it wants is 7,245 kilometers from that entry interface to where we're going to land. So this is the burn. Once you've set it up, you probably shouldn't look at it too much. Try to set it up when your shuttle is close to the maneuver node would be. So otherwise, if it's on the other side of the planet, it might be calculating things weird. But this is okay. You can see that starting at descent retroburn of 80 meters per second is about right. And also, while you still have this up, you might as well take a look at what the periapsis is. We can see that the maneuver periapsis is 49 kilometers. So when we do the retroburn, whatever else happens, you know, maybe this ends up being a little bit inaccurate. We just want to make sure that starting the burn at the right time, we end up with a periapsis of 49 kilometers, or 49.5 kilometers. We can close this now. That's just for planning. Now, Firefly in here, I have not changed any of its numbers. So these are the default numbers for Firefly right now, unlike all the tweaking I did in the previous video. So we'll see what it's like with the default numbers. Notice the interesting thing about it, we see that the blue marker is there, and if I start the effects, it sort of, at this point, thinks that the shuttle is going to be going in tail first. But I'm sure that that's not going to be the case. I'm sure that that's not going to be a problem. But it does make it hard to visualize exactly what these numbers are going to do with the shuttle once we do hit the atmosphere, or once we do get the plasma effects. So we will see. Okay, here the maneuver node is still wandering despite the fact that I tried to tilt properly, but that's why I remembered the periapsis, and so we'll try to get to that. Here we go. It doesn't have to be this precise, actually. The reentry script should be able to handle it anyway. Prior to reentry, make sure you're pointing basically prograde so that the reentry script doesn't have to try to maneuver widely. There are certain angles that KOS does not like when turning spacecraft. And we can only activate the reentry script once we get to 122 kilometers. We probably don't need this much animation Mon3 coming down. We do need a little bit to run the RCS thrusters, so we can't be completely dry. Hopefully this is going to be okay. And it's OPS3 that we have to run at 122. Okay. Right. So now we have all this complicated stuff. And we make sure that the target is KSC, it's on auto flaps, auto brake, and it should do all the things. And we just get to enjoy the effects. Okay, we have a glow, folks. So starting around 95 kilometers, the glow that comes with the mod appears. And that is what we have here. This is not Firefly, as far as I know. Firefly, let's take a look at what it's saying right now. I think should be still in the negative where it's not doing anything. Indeed, it's a negative number, and so its entry strength is not happening yet. And what we would like is it to start doing something at about the same time as this glow happens, but not yet. It's not there yet, and it doesn't look like it's going to be there for a while. Well, we're hanging out at about 78 kilometers here, still no other effects right now. As far as this is concerned, it's still at negative 443. And it's actually getting more negative. That's not good. Again, so this is by default. I haven't touched these numbers, but probably ought to. Particle threshold is the speed, technically. Let me just increase that. I mean... Oh, wait, it, maybe... Is it gonna be happy with that? No, it's still calculating. Okay. Well, now it's going down. Oh, I mean, it's going closer to 0. Oh, but it didn't really say that. Yes, okay. Well, we've got a heating indicator and extra glow on the shuttle now. I think we've got the starting of... No, that's just the RCS thrusters. Nope, still no Firefly. Close. It's actually going away from 0 again, because we're going up. But we're close to 0. Closer. I want to get the exact altitude where it starts out so we can compare after I change some numbers. Oh, we're starting to get the bow shock now. So about 65 kilometers, we can see the entry strength is increasing now, and we can... the bow shock, that's not... It's interesting way that they've done it, but I guess that's all you can do, really. Maybe I should just turn that off. It's not turning it off right now, but it'll need to reload. Oh, I guess it doesn't need to reload. Nope. It seems to need to reload for that too. Or maybe I can reload vessel. Nope. Turning that does not turn the bow shock off. But anyway, this is what it looks like. That's not too bad. Doesn't have the color variations that other people seem to get with their with the shuttles, like the stock shuttle. But if we're looking from down below like that, that's not too bad. And actually, the bow shock doesn't look too bad like that. Maybe I'll keep it. It's only really if you zoom in and see what it's actually doing to create the bow shock that's really a little bit weird. So overall, it's nice, and you know, we could easily tweak the length a little bit if we wanted to. Maybe that would be good. The way it's interacting with the control surfaces to create those bits, maybe. I guess that's all right. The problem is I can't really adjust it properly because this way it doesn't really understand where it's going. Can't really change that. So I probably shouldn't bother with that. Yeah, I'll probably still get rid of the bow shock thing. It's okay when it's against space. That's okay. Framed against the land, though, it's a little bit weird. Especially back here. This bit is more of a problem for the bow shock. Okay, we're still carrying some OMS propellant in the tail. Hopefully it'll be alright. So the amount of time that we actually get the effects is pretty tight. We're talking about between 56 kilometers and 65-ish kilometers. So a sweet spot where we get the reentry effects with Firefly, and then that's it. We really need to broaden that out, I feel like. So while it's continuing here, let me suggest one possibility for doing that. And that is in aro_physics.config in realism overhaul. There is a modification on the physics arrow fx. So in your KSP folder, there is a physics.cfg. Don't mess with that because it's already being overwritten by this stuff in realism overhaul if you're using realism overhaul. If you're not using realism overhaul, you can maybe make a similar patch like this saying @physicsglobal and then make it final instead of for realism overhaul if it's only for your own use, and then maybe adjust these numbers here. And here we see arrow fx full thermal and start thermal. Now this is in Mach number, Mach 4 and Mach 8, and it's really actually for going up more than coming down, weirdly enough. If you take a look at the description in the original physics.config, it says speed in Mach when arrow effects start changing from white to orange, and speed in Mach where arrow effects is fully orange. This is very technical. I mean, it's not exactly what we're looking for here as far as things we can change, but you can see Aro has already changed it from the default 2.5 Mach and 3.75 to 4 and 8. Well, let's broaden that out a little bit. Let's say I keep this start thermal to 2.5 and maybe 3. Let's say 3, and then I go 12. Maybe that'll help. Now, RareNick had previously given a configuration to me that modified a whole bunch of these numbers. There's a density scaler as well. That's this number. Density term used for calculating aero effect strength, you can see. So that changed it to 0.0002. It at some point was less. This is more, but then that's stock. Here, that's 0.0004. Well, so let me go with this number, which is better than that number, higher than that number. So it should give us more of it, I guess. And then this exponent is 0.5. That's E1 in this. So these are all factors in this aero FX strength. So by default it's 0.5. Here it's 0.7. This is a trivial change to 0.7, so I'm not gonna bother. This scalar is 0.02, and so it's 1. I mean, 1 is the original in... I don't know where it's the original. Here it's 2. Here it's 0.02. Oh no, that's scalar. Scalar... This is 0.09. This is 0.0036. Well, more is better, I think. I don't know if this is going to... Well, it's a scalar, so... Maybe I should comment the original numbers to restore them if all goes wrong. So, okay. Scalar 2, and then the density exponent, that's 2 here, 2 here, and 2 here, so we're not changing that. Okay, and then this velocity exponent was 4. Here it's 0.718. Here it's 3.5. Well, that's very different. Well, let's try it. So, I'm gonna take the 0.787... Let me just take all of this. Fade start is a very special number indeed. It says density at which condensation effects start to fade out. Plasma effects never does. I don't care about the condensation effects right now, so I'm not gonna mess with it. Okay, so that's what I've got for the aero effects here. And I'll need a restart to make that happen. So, I mean, I'll say that even though the Firefly effects aren't like at full power, they don't seem to be doing what other people get from it. They're still there, so I'll just accept that, and mainly my thing is going to be to figure out how to broaden the range of them in terms of the altitude at which they appear. And so we've made that change, and I'll see if that does anything or not. I probably shouldn't spend so much time doing this since I'm just supposed to be testing the reentry testing, but the reentry effects, but, you know, it's always nice to see the shuttle land. Okay. Pull up anytime now. I don't particularly like this version of the runway because of the markings being weird. But we'll go with it for now. Shuttle taking its own sweet time to set down. Alright, and it's down, brakes out, parachute out. So that part is still working fine. Even if it takes a little bit of a luxurious time to get its wheels onto the runway. Okay, that's that. Alright, let's see with the changes that I've made if that changes when the reentry effects pop up. Alright, here I go again, but I'll see you when it's on its way back down so we can see how the effects are. I'll cut out all of the launch business, but personally I like watching it launch, so... Up it goes. Okay, we are now entering the atmosphere again. This seems to max out at negative 560, and it's stuck there for now. Well, the mod's body glow, the shuttle mod's body glow, is starting up. This is still not ticking down. Maybe those numbers are not good numbers. Let's find out, I guess. Well, we're at 78 kilometers and no effect so far. And that's not ticking down at all. So I'm thinking, well, the numbers might have an effect, but they might have had the wrong effect. So it's still worth thinking about tweaking those numbers that are in ro_physics.config, but we'll have to be careful about how we tweak them because right now that entry strength not ticking down is spooking me out. We'll see if it does anything by 65 kilometers though. Alright, so the bad news is that the numbers I picked obviously did the wrong thing and now it's not showing any effects at all. The good news is, clearly the numbers in that file actually do have an effect. Now, the question is, what numbers should we type in order to have the effect that we want? Clearly, this is not good. I don't know if it's like any other numbers except for the expected ones that are going to cause a problem, or if it was just a particular number that has thrown it off, and now it just can't make its calculations. I'm not sure. I'm gonna try to do things here, but turn it off and on. But yeah, so that seems to be the shape of it, and maybe the Firefly devs can figure out exactly what numbers to get that will make it a little bit more effective in real solar system, operate at a wider range of altitudes than it does right now. But it looks like I'm going to have to revert the numbers here. I'm not going to include the landing here because, well, that is not what this video is really about, and I've already shown the landing. So I'll wrap it up here with this conclusion, and I'll try my own other tweaks to try and figure out how to make Firefly work the way I want it to. And that's just my own business with my own set of mods. You know, there could be other mod conflicts. I'll test that out myself. And if I have conclusions that I think that other people might be interested in, I'll present those. So that's the situation, and I'll continue experimenting. With that, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do press like. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. And I'll see you next time.